guys, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how I recovered from OCD and how I stay in recovery. I'm probably going to switch locations like halfway through this video because my little sister's going to come home and this is her room and I feel really awkward filming when someone else is home. So I'm probably going to go into another room and like put headphones in and talk into the headphones really awkwardly. But I really want to film this video because this is the third time I've tried to film this video and I'm gonna get it done and I'm gonna put it out there. I keep worrying about like, oh, I haven't said exactly everything. I'm like speaking too slow in that video. That video is too long. And you know what? I'm just gonna put it out like whatever it is because this like is something I'm passionate about. I really want to help other people that have been in the same position as me and that have struggled with OCD and that feel like their OCD is never going to leave them alone and that they're always going to be tortured by it, which you're not. So I actually have videos talking about specific themes. So if you want to see something about a specific theme like POCD or peripheral vision OCD, I have videos on those specific themes. But this is going to be more like all around, generally, how I stay recovered from OCD. And I also did a video about how ERP helped me, so you can watch that video if you want. Yeah, so probably the most asked question I get on my YouTube and TikTok is, how did you recover from OCD? So in this video, I want to give you like an amalgamation of all the things together that have helped me recover and stay in recovery. Kind of by order of importance, but actually not really. The first two things I'm going to say are like the most crucial, and then the rest is like how to keep it going. The first two things that I really recommend to anyone struggling with OCD is therapy and or medication. ERP therapy is the gold standard treatment for OCD, but there are people who find other kinds of therapy helpful. For example, in my therapy, we also incorporated ACT, which is acceptance and commitment therapy, which is also really helpful for OCD. Generally, CBT therapy alone will not help you get past OCD. You need an element of exposure to your fears. And you also need to practice acceptance. So really, ERP and ACT are kind of like the magic combo, I think. But you know, this is just my advice. I'm just one person with my experience. So, you know, take what helps, what resonates with you. Next is medication, and I find it really funny whenever people comment like, what meds are you on, how many milligrams are you on, because like everyone is different. I tried like 4 different types of medication and I tried 3 SSRIs, which all didn't really work for me, and then the one I'm on right now is a tricyclic antidepressant. It's called clomipramine or anafranil, and it's like the best thing ever, the best thing I've tried for my OCD, and I've got a whole video about it. You can watch that if you want. Just because this medication worked for me, it might not work for you. Like the way medication works within everyone's body has to do with your metabolism, with the way you're made up, the way your brain works. Like if you have other conditions, certain medications may not work well with you. I am someone who's also autistic and has ADHD, and so maybe that's why regular SSRIs didn't work with me. I don't know, I'm just guessing here. Next really important thing that helped me in my recovery is following people on YouTube, Instagram, whatever platforms you're on. If you are on social media or on the internet, use it to your advantage. I'm going to put here a bunch of channels that were really helpful for me. Exposure therapy was really helpful for like the more physical types of OCD, but with pure O, things like POCD and harm OCD, because there's so much shame around it, it really helps to see other people talking about their experience with it. And that's why like those people that I put up on the screen are amazing, and most of them also have OCD themselves and are like experts in the fields. A lot of those pages really did help to speed up my recovery and kind of like solidify it.
Hi guys, I'm now in a different room like I promised, and way more awkward. Right, my next point was do not ignore comorbid conditions. You can obviously have OCD by itself, but a lot of the time there are comorbidities, which means other conditions alongside OCD, and it is important to know that about yourself and to treat the other conditions, like depending on what it is. For me, because I knew I had ADHD, I didn't know I was autistic for a while, but like these things are neurodevelopmental disorders. ADHD and autism are neurodevelopmental disorders, so they are things you're born with. It's like the way your brain is wired. You can't like get rid of them, you know? Whereas OCD is a mental illness. Neither of those two are mental illnesses. So it's like when you have a mental illness, it's really important to treat it. Because obviously someone who is autistic and has OCD is going to have a different experience from someone who just has OCD. And like issues that come from their autism might also like inform the way OCD manifests. So for me, for example, my checking OCD was made so much worse because of my ADHD, because I'm super forgetful. Like my working memory is one of my worst points because of my ADHD, and because of that, like I'm pretty sure if I didn't also have ADHD, my checking OCD would have been a lot less. Like it still would have been bad, but because I also have ADHD and I already know that I have to double check things, and I know that I'm prone to losing things, forgetting things, so I have to already remind myself. Like when I had bad checking OCD, it was like, oh my god, it was absolutely crazy. Also, trauma can affect the way you experience OCD. There are links between like PTSD and OCD. OCD has really big genetic links. So for me, my mum had OCD. She was never diagnosed, but you know, everything I say to her, she's like, yep, I experienced that. So, and then also some of my siblings do. So there's obviously like a genetic factor here. You know, for OCD, it's like genetics, environment, blah, blah, blah. But there's also like a link between PTSD and OCD. I'm pretty sure it's like 30% of people who develop PTSD will also develop OCD. Something interesting that my therapist said is that he thought my OCD was a coping mechanism. And I don't fully agree, because I think he kind of said like your OCD could have developed as a coping mechanism. And I was like, okay, I don't think that's fully true, because literally my mum had OCD and so did like some of my siblings. Like I think I would have had it anyways. But because I do have a lot of trauma, I definitely think that my trauma informed my OCD, like the way that my OCD was. It can definitely like also become a coping mechanism, because I felt so out of control a lot of the time. And when you do compulsions, you somehow feel like you've like saved yourself, like you have a little bit of control. But it's weird, because like the whole point of OCD is like trying to feel more in control. But actually, when I was at my worst, I literally felt like OCD was controlling me. So anyway, boom, that's a brain mash. So yeah, for me, I felt like it was most important to tackle the OCD, because it was something that was like totally taking over my life, like literally affecting me like 95% of the time and controlling me, like I said. And I thought, you know, I can learn about ADHD and autism and I can work on that like after. But it was just, I think if it's something like that, like if you have a neurodevelopmental disorder but then you also have a mental illness, I think it's important to treat the mental illness. And obviously if you have like other mental illnesses alongside OCD, like bipolar, schizophrenia, whatever, then you have to be like careful about your medication and stuff. So that's why it's important to be aware of comorbidities. Okay, now the last thing I want to mention, and I think literally the most important thing that I do that keeps me recovered, is not only do I keep practicing exposure and acceptance, but I do exposures and I practice acceptance in my most vulnerable moments. If you have OCD, you'll know that OCD really loves to catch you out when good things are happening, when it's like a really important situation and you're like, oh, it would be really bad if OCD popped up right now. Well, guess what? It's gonna do that. And it's those moments that you literally feel like, this is a really important time in my life. I really need nothing to fuck it up. And like OCD pops up and it's like, if you don't do this right now, or if you don't act like this or do this compulsion, this really important moment in your life is totally going to get ruined, or like, you know, you're going to have a really big consequence. And in those moments, it can really feel like literally life or death. Sometimes it can feel like life or death. But to stay in recovery from OCD, you have to be able to take that gamble and not do that compulsion, because the minute you give in to that compulsion, your OCD is reinforced and it's going to come back stronger. Think about the times that you haven't done compulsions, that you've gone against your OCD, and OCD said, like, maybe it said, if you don't do this, you're going to die tomorrow. And you thought, you know what? I'm not going to do that because I'm tired of this little bitch. Did you die tomorrow? Did you? There are most definitely a lot more times that your OCD has been proven wrong. Yet that is not enough. For some reason, that is not enough for us to stop having OCD. because, you know, even when I didn't go to therapy yet, I would sometimes resist my compulsions because there were so many. So sometimes I'd be like, let me like see what happens if I don't do this thing. And like I wouldn't die, or, you know, the consequence wouldn't happen, but it wouldn't be enough for my OCD to go away. OCD can always come up with another thing, like, okay, that didn't happen, but this one is likely to happen, so you better do this compulsion. And this is why it's important to expose yourself every time, because if you've done it once and you've kind of dispelled that magical thinking or OCD a little bit, it's going to come back in a different way, and you need to do it for all the different ways and all the different types of intrusive thoughts that OCD brings you. I used to see OCD as a part of me when it was really bad, and when I was like transitioning into recovery, I realized that OCD is not me. It's like a separate thing, and I treated it as a separate thing. And when I got intrusive thoughts, I spoke to it as if it was a separate thing and is. Some people told me that like it helped them to even give their intrusive thoughts a name, or like the OCD a name, like Bob, like, okay Bob, but I just call it OCD. So yeah, like while I was recovering, I would honestly just answer my OCD. Like if my OCD was like, you know, touch your eyebrow right now or you're gonna vomit tomorrow, I'll just be like, yeah, sure, OCD, that's definitely gonna happen. Whereas before, you know, I would just hear that and be scared because like I wasn't aware that it's not even me, it's intrusive thoughts and OCD, which is like ego dystonic. So yeah, it's important to do exposures as much as you can, because in the beginning you might have more fear, like especially when you first start doing OCD therapy and when you first start doing exposures, because you're taking a massive risk. Like it feels like a massive risk for us, but as time goes on and you see that like it's literally bullshit, like your OCD is feeding you bullshit. And you know, if OCD has ever said like, oh, if you don't do this, this might happen, and it gives you something really vague, like if you don't do this thing tomorrow you're going to have a bad day, and you don't do the thing and then tomorrow you have a bad day, we tend to be like, oh my god, so my OCD was right. But think about it, your OCD was not right. There are so many possibilities of so many different things happening. There is like a 50-50 chance of you having a bad day or a good day tomorrow, or an average day. Sorry, that's the wrong percentage fraction, but whatever. Like there is a chance you'll have a bad day, a good day, an average day. You did not have a bad day just because you didn't do that compulsion. And you need to resist OCD enough to understand that coincidence exists and that you are not a magical little wizard that can predict things, and compulsions are not going to save you. The more lenient you are with yourself and the more you let yourself do compulsions and you say, oh, but just this time, like it feels really scary. It's like, no, that's going to reinforce your OCD. So my last and most important thing is do exposures in your most vulnerable state. But I also have to mention that if you ever do give in to compulsions because it's like a really scary, intrusive thought, don't beat yourself up over it too much. That's not helpful either. OCD tortures you enough. If you've done a compulsion, you can pull yourself back into an exposure if you want to. Like if it's too scary for you, just, you know, remind yourself, I have OCD, like it's not the worst thing in the world. I can do an exposure next time. But I would recommend that if you have the emotional capacity to do so, you can re-expose yourself if you've done a compulsion. So for example, my OCD might say, if I don't open this card in a certain way, I'm going to have really bad luck this week. And I decide to do the compulsion and open the card in the OCD way. I'll pause and remind myself that just because I did that, it means absolutely nothing. I have not saved myself from having bad luck next week. I sometimes like put intrusive thoughts in my head, but then I don't really think it's intrusive anymore if you're putting it there. But I tell myself that I can have an unlucky week even if I open that the right way. Do you understand? You see where I'm going with this? Or I could close it and open it the wrong way, and that will put you back into like a little bit of that anxiety. You don't have to like do a compulsion and then just run away from it. You can still expose yourself in some ways. I thought I'd give you guys like some examples of when OCD like hit me in my most vulnerable moments. So one example of that is earlier this year I had a really important audition. If you guys don't know, like my biggest dream is like to be an actress and to act in things that like I really identify with and like care about. Like I would love to see OCD represented in a series or something. So that's like my big dream, and it's one of the most important things to me. Earlier last year I got a really important audition. Basically my OCD hit me in the morning, like before I was supposed to film my audition, and I was, you know, recovered at this point. But like I said, guys, you're still gonna get intrusive thoughts, you're still gonna get like obsessive thoughts. So my intrusive thought said, if you pour your coffee in this cup, you're not going to get the part. If you pour your coffee in that cup, you're going to get the part. And guess what I did? I poured my coffee in the wrong cup. That said I'm not going to get the part. In that moment, for me, the stakes were much higher than they would have been for like another exposure, because I felt like I was risking so much, because this is a really important moment for me. Like, and also I've been broke and stuck in living in a place where I really don't want to be for so long, and this could be my chance to like freaking get out of here. Like, I really don't want to risk it in that moment. Like, the best thing for me in that moment would have been to get that part, but chances are that if I did pour my coffee in the right cup, the same thing would have happened, which is I didn't get the part, which, you know, is understandable. There was thousands of people going for it, and to be fair, I didn't hit some of the criteria that you had to hit, but I still went for it. So if I poured my coffee in the right cup, what would have happened is my OCD would have been reinforced, and I would have had high anxiety, higher OCD, not only while filming my audition and sending it, but also afterwards. If I somehow poured my coffee in the right cup and somehow got the part, do you think I would get less intrusive thoughts or more? You guessed it, or maybe you didn't. My OCD and magical thinking would be reinforced, because I think I've just made myself get that part by literally pouring coffee into the right cup. I mean, come on, we're back in that delusional space. We don't want to be there. And the thing is, like, it would not have been the fact that I poured the coffee into the cup that meant that I got the part. It would have been, you know, how I acted. I feel like to really recover from OCD and be able to do exposures in these most like crucial moments, or like most important moments, your will to not have OCD and to never be in that horrible place again has to be stronger than like the fear. So basically in that situation, because I did pour the coffee in the wrong cup, even though I want to be an actress, I want to get out of this house so much, my will to not have debilitating OCD again is stronger than that. Sometimes OCD gives me like life or death things. It's like, if you don't do this, you're gonna die tomorrow. I'm willing to risk like the worst things that OCD puts in my head, because number one, I know they're intrusive thoughts, I know they're not based in truth, and then if I have anxiety left about it, even though it's so like irrational, I know that like what's more likely to happen if I do the compulsion is my OCD will be reinforced, and then it might get worse, and I might go back to that torturous place that I was in before. And I know that if I don't do the compulsions, the bad thing is probably not going to happen because it's not based in truth. But I am likely to take that like little percentage, little chance that like it might happen, because number one, like that's exposure. Number two, like there's literally so many possibilities in the world. Like, yeah, bad things might happen sometimes, and it is not because of your OCD or intrusive thoughts. Get it? So I'm willing to take that chance, because what it's most likely going to do is give you less anxiety the next time intrusive thoughts come up, because you faced your fear this time. And if a similar kind of intrusive thought pops up next time, you'll probably be able to deal with it in an even easier way, because you've already done it. So yeah, I hope I've explained that well, but I think the key to staying in the recovery space in OCD is, obviously for me, I still take medication because it helps with the amount of intrusive thoughts, it helps with the obsessions, compulsions, it helps with all of it. I did therapy, but it's also all of those things I said, and then also exposing yourself at the times where it's like most scary, but also not hating yourself and giving yourself compassion if you do have a spike in OCD and you do compulsions, because recovery is not linear. Like, you're going to go up and down, and hating yourself is not going to help. Just be compassionate, and you can try again next time. When you can do exposure in your scariest moments, you can consider yourself like pretty much in recovery. I'd say at least like in recovery. So yeah, I am so happy that I managed to film this video, and I'm actually going to post this one. So please like this video if you liked it, because it helps me in the YouTube algorithm, and it helps it to reach other people that need to hear this. And subscribe to my channel if you want more like OCD stuff, although I'm probably not going to film much more like OCD stuff in the upcoming months, because I'm probably just going to do more like general mental health content. My next video is going to be about late autism diagnosis, because I did promise a video on that. So yeah, anyways, like, comment, subscribe, all of that nice stuff, and share this video with people you think need to see it. Thanks for listening. I hope you're having a good day, and if you're not, Hope this video helped you to feel like a bit more at ease. Bye!